So, the content creator Kai Cenat has been under fire because he said that African Americans do not have culture. And y'all ain't got nothing new to say yet. Like, I feel like this is so played out. This is so just old, but we gonna get into it. Now, first of all, let me tell y'all, I have never watched the Kai Cenat video ever, okay? Now, I have seen snippets in passing because sometimes people will repost, parts of his videos. Like, I believe he had Nicki Minaj on his show at one point or something, right? So, I know of this guy. I know his name, and from the snippets that I would see, okay, he didn't look African American, right? But it was very clear that even though, you could look at him and tell he was African or Caribbean or something, right? It was very clear that he is not in African or Caribbean culture. Like he clearly imitates Black Americans, right? Now, this is my thing. That's just what I gathered from the little snippets that I see. I could absolutely be wrong. But it seems like people are agreeing with me because he's been getting exposed for the fact that apparently he is half Haitian and half Trinidadian, but he doesn't do anything with those cultures ever. He's always balls deep in African American culture, and then will turn around and say that African Americans don't have a culture. And again, like, is this not getting tired? Because look, I have said before that these first generation African and Caribbeans born in the United States are having a serious identity crisis. Take a moment to put yourself in these people's shoes, okay? Take a moment to put yourself in these people's shoes. You born in a country that is not yours, right? You grow up here, and it's like, okay, maybe, at home, your parents carry on whatever traditions and whatever culture, right? But when you go out into the world, it's not your culture, it's not your traditions, it's not your people, etc., etc., etc. First of all, just think about how, like, confusing and isolating that could feel, right? But then think about the fact that these people are overcompensating. And let me tell you what I mean by that, right? When you hear Africans who live in Africa and Caribbeans who live in the Caribbean talk about these Africans and Caribbeans who are born and raised in America, they always say, oh, you're not really African, you're not really Caribbean, because you didn't grow up, here, you grew up there, so, you're not really part of us, right? And you see these people fighting for their lives all the time. They're like, my parents are Caribbean, my whole family lives there, so and so and so, yada, yada, yada. Like, clearly that's who I am. How you gonna tell me, yada, 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 right? When I tell you they're overcompensating, they want so badly to be perceived as African or Caribbean or whatever by, the people back in their homelands, that a lot of times the way that they choose to cope with it is by attempting to distance themselves from African American culture, right? And a lot of times the distancing that they, participate in ends up being this dumb shit that Kai Cenat said, oh, African Americans don't even have any culture. Clearly, he's trying to be embraced by whoever. Like I said, I think he's half Trinidadian, half Haitian, right? Clearly, he's trying very hard to fit in with his people back home. First of all, side note, I look real good. Oh my goodness. Like, now, to be fair, I always look good. But some days I look real good. I mean, like, okay, I look real good all the time. But some days it's like, damn, girl, you looking like who? Like, ooh, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I don't know what it is. But anyway, let me get back on task, okay? Now, this is something that I have actually observed in real life as well as online. This is not something that I've just seen online. This happens in real life as well because y'all know my best friend is Caribbean American. Her parents are from the Caribbean, but she was born and raised in America, right? So I noticed these interactions when her family comes to America from the Caribbean to visit, right? Because, the rest of their family still lives in the Caribbean, right? And you'll notice that, like, their family calls them the American cousins, right? But then you'll notice our friend group calls them the Caribbeans, right? Because in our friend group, they not American. They're not American, okay? Because the rest of us in our friend group are actually American. Like, one time we was talking about grits, and I was like, come on, baby. Like, look, grits is salt, pepper, and butter. It ain't a sugar thing, right? So we was going back and forth about grits, and then our Caribbean friend was like, oh, I've never had grits. And we was like, girl, what? Like, huh? But then she was like, Caribbeans don't eat grits. And we was like, okay, that does make sense because grits came from, our interactions with the Native Americans in the United States, right? But again, in our friend group, we call them the Caribbean friends because they're clearly not American, right? But they Caribbean family calls them the American cousins, right? So they're constantly caught up in this limbo, of people, like othering them, so to speak, right? Because it's like they don't really completely fit in anywhere. Let me just say, for the purpose of this video, let's just say that, these friends are Haitian American, right? So they, a lot of their family still lives in Haiti and comes to visit, them in America and stuff, right? So one time their family had came to visit, and one of the ones who was raised in America, right? She was putting on like this Haitian accent, and one of her cousins was like, "Why are you talking like that?" And I felt so bad for her because clearly she was trying to be perceived as more Haitian, but the cousins who actually were born and raised in Haiti were like, "What are you doing?" Like, it was so embarrassing. I had secondhand embarrassment. And there was a time we were having this conversation, and one of them said, "Well, I'm American. Like, I was born and raised in America." And I was like, "You not American though. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you Caribbean American. Like, you're not like ethnically American in the way that I am, right? It's not the same." And I feel bad for them because, especially when they grow up in a city like Detroit or, like Atlanta or wherever, right, where they grow up around mostly Black Americans. It's like they grow up in our culture, so it's like culturally they end up, like identifying more with us than their actual culture because they grow up completely immersed in us, right? But then they get to the point where like they trying so hard to fit in with they peoples back home that, the best way to be perceived as more Caribbean or more African is for them to, distance themselves from Black American culture. And a lot of times, again, they go about that distancing by putting Black American culture down. So, you'll hear Africans say, "Oh, Akata, so-and-so and so." You'll hear Caribbeans like Kai Cenat say, "Oh, Black Americans don't have culture, so-and-so and so." Because, again, they trying to cope. They trying to cope hard, baby. They want to fit in. Now, don't get me wrong. It's definitely sad. You know what I'm saying? They trying so hard to fit in because they don't really have a place anywhere, right? But as I stated in a previous video, a bitch who trying to beat me could never convince me that I ain't the shit. How you sitting here dressing like me, talking like me, acting like me, but then you got the audacity to tell me, "Oh, but you ain't shit though. But you ain't shit though. Like, I'ma steal your whole swag, but you ain't got no swag though." Like, what? And then you expect somebody to take you seriously, you goofball, you goofy. Like, you don't even make sense. And it's sad because the people in your homeland are clocking your teeth. You said that dumb shit to try to get in good with them, and they still don't fucking take you seriously. The Trinidadians and shit is like, yeah, Kai Cenat, you balls deep in African American culture talking about they don't have no culture, but you've never mentioned Trinidad, you've never mentioned Haiti, you've never mentioned whatever. You've never displayed that culture, but you talking shit about African Americans not having no culture. Like, what? And then they said apparently the dude be acting Jamaican. Now, again, I don't watch his videos, so I cannot, say that for a fact. I can't speak firsthand on what he be acting like, right? But my point is, clearly this nigga's just confused. He's just confused. And I swear a lot of this hatred that African Americans get comes from the fact that y'all don't like y'all damn selves. Like, I've mentioned this before. Africans talk shit all the time talking about, "Oh, y'all don't know where y'all come from." You do know where you come from, but guess what, bitch? You right up in Detroit with me. Guess what, bitch? You right up in New York with us. Guess what, bitch? You right up in Atlanta with us. Guess what, bitch? You right up in Baltimore with us. You know where you from, and can't nobody drag you to that bitch, okay? So why the fuck would I give a fuck about where I'm from, okay? Because you know exactly what country in Africa you from, but you'll be damned if you go back to that bitch, right? I swear to y'all, all of this hate that African Americans get is just because these motherfuckers hate themselves and they trying to take it out on us.